If you take a look at Monster Hunter Skyrim, Skyrim Special Edition, Skyrim Deluxe Edition, Skyrim V, and of course Skyrim for microwaves, you will likely notice one thing. Most fantasy worlds have guilds, but few achieve such a real and genuine feeling of immersion as the Adventurer Guild of Overlord, a series of novels set in a medieval high fantasy world. So let's take a closer look at it. First question, what exactly is this Adventurer Guild? Well, they are essentially a transnational, decentralized, institutionalized, fiscal independent, rapid response force to any non-human threats to humanity, which is fancy talk for a bunch of strong people hitting monsters with club for money. So let's break all of this down in easily to understand parts. First and foremost, how exactly came the Adventurer Guild to be? Well, it was originally founded in the aftermath of the War Against the Evil Spirits, a costly campaign to contain a hostile invasion from Yggdrasil. Ancient heroes originating from the slain theocracy fought alongside various other humans from all over the world, such as the legendary assassin Ianji, who founded an assassin guild on his or her very own, other humanoids like dwarven heroes armed with ancient rune-crafted weapons, and even entirely non-human entities to eliminate the demonic threat. A threat so severe that Platinum Dragonlord, the most powerful being in this day and age, alongside forces of the humanocentric theocracy. So after this devastating war where many cities and even entire nations were destroyed, the theocracy was still licking its wounds, and while their military was recovering, various beasts, demi-humans and heteromorph creatures once more threatened humanity within its very borders. Therefore they implemented a system to report, judge and dispose of these kinds of localized threats via the aid of mercenaries. This concept might be their very own, or it is based on the holy scriptures and oral traditions describing the deeds, actions and thoughts of their very own gods, who arrived 300 years before the evil deities first manifested. Additionally, it is quite likely that the theocracy also had a hand in spreading the guild's influence, considering that the temples, who are making an enormous amount of money by selling healing spells to customers, and who are willing to send assassins after traveling monks offering free healing to the poor and sick in order to protect their main source of income, I wouldn't expect them to just stand aside and watch as a potential concurrent grew and expanded. So without the theocracy interfering, the temples in all likelihood would have initiated a alpha strike in order to take out unwanted competitors. Because party members, skilled in healing magic, are an essential part of most adventurer groups, and therefore a danger to their business model. But this is not what had happened, since both transnational institutions are operating today besides each other. So therefore it is practically proven that the theocracy brokered a deal between the two, which enforced strict regulations on the use of any healing magic from any guild member. But later more on this part. Furthermore, the theocracy ironically might have played a role in separating faith, guild and state from another, since introducing a foreign military organization full of powerful armed individuals under the theocracy's influence would have never ever been allowed to happen. The kingdom, the empire, and any other nation would simply refuse to accept foreign proxy soldiers on their nation's soil. So therefore the guild had and has to be strictly neutral. And a major advantage that this neutrality brings with it is the avoidance of any loss of life on the guild's part due to political intrigue and warfare. Because neutrality goes both ways. And therefore no country may request adventurers to take part in human-to-human conflict, therefore assuring that the considerable military might of the Adventurer Guild will only be used against enemies of humanity. And while the theocracy slowly over the next 50 years or so made a full recovery, and yet again was able to assert full control over their territory, the Adventurer Guild still remained a vital necessity in the kingdom, and albeit to a lesser degree, in the empire and other states. And to illustrate exactly how important the guild still is, just before becoming a tributary state under the sorcerer kingdom of Einsolgaun, the empire, with 8 legions, each filled with 10,000 well-armed, armored and trained knights, aided by the Ministry of Magic under Fluda Paridane, was still unable to keep the entire country free from monsters and other threats to humanity, although it was still way more effective in doing so than the highly disorganized forces of the Re-Estize Kingdom. This inability of all states, excluding the theocracy, to fully cleanse or at least contain threats to their population is due to the centralized nature of any governmental structure. Monstrous threats oftentimes demand a rapid response to contain them, but before the Imperial Court is notified, before the Legion is notified, and is able to dispatch a portion of their soldiers to deal with, let's say, a raiding band of goblins and ogres, considerable damage will have been caused. And the same goes for any other state to an even greater extent. And this is where the Adventurer Guild truly shines. In contrast to any state, it can respond way faster in a more localized way. And even better, the guild is actively trying to prevent monstrous outbreaks by offering monetary compensation for any beast slain, as long as you can provide proof that a beast is dead. Presenting a cut-off ear from an ogre or a goblin will usually suffice. And please also keep in mind that the adventurers operate in small groups, very rarely exceeding a dozen members, and thusly, they are able to respond swiftly. Let's go through this a bit. If a beast, perhaps a big wolf, attacks a village or preys on their cattle, the village elder will travel to the local guild branch and request aid in exchange for payment. Part of the money offered is then used to pay wages to guild employees, who then gather quest-relevant information and also determine the scale of the threat posed by the monster in question. After this initial assessment, the quest will be made public so that any adventurer of matching rank can take it. But if the fee is not paid in full, the request in question will get a lower priority. As cruel as this may sound, this practice not only secures founding, it also ensures that the response is adequate, because the guild obviously can't send out a group of top adventurers to slay a single wolf for a single copper penny, since these forces might be better used by taking on other, more dangerous quests. And even if they wanted to help, most adventurers wouldn't do it due to the great net loss they would suffer. In the world of Overlord, consumable items like potions or herbal medicines are quite expensive, and the same goes for equipment. And if the adventurers in question are unable to earn the cost of maintaining their equipment and their items, sooner or later they will find themselves without any form of equipment, supply or ammunition, effectively interrupting their service until proper founding is secured again. Furthermore, the standing of the adventurers, especially among the nobility, is quite low. Don't get me wrong, their service is still valuable, and many normal soldiers might even admire them. But the higher up the social ladder you go, the more they are feared, despised, and oftentimes hated. And if the profession in question is frowned upon, at the very least it should pay well, especially considering that these people are risking their lives on a daily basis. So therefore it is, if the guild can't pay properly, the adventurers usually won't take the quest in question. You of course might get lucky if it's a lazy day, or convenient for an adventurer group to take it on, but again, it might take longer, or no one at all will show up. Additionally, another part of the fee is neither used for payment and provision of the adventurers, nor for the investigation into the threat posed, but is required for the general upkeep of the guild. Things like rent, food, repairs, pay, and pretty much everything else. So to summarize this video, the Adventurer Guild might send you and your friends on a fantastic journey. Your team might be the first to rediscover some ancient lost city, or experience other great things. But such quests, because of their very nature, would not be only extremely dangerous, but also exceedingly rare. The day-to-day reality for almost all adventurers are quite bleak. They are mercenary monster exterminators. Necessary, but not well liked. And obligated to follow strict rules and regulations that seem unheroic at best, and oftentimes downright evil. If, for example, the local lord sends his henchmen to a village in order to collect tributes and taxes, you aren't allowed to intervene even if they hurt or kill peasants in the process, even if they clearly plunder for themselves, even if they take their daughters by force. No matter what, the adventurers have to stay neutral. And even if you stumble upon a crying child, slowly bleeding to death, because wounded by one of the Lord's minions, you are not allowed to use your healing magic in order to save it, unless you demand proper payment. Payment expensive enough that many lesser nobles would deny their second and third born sons any healing magic whatsoever. Even they would have to make do with herbal medicine or a simple prayer. So for all intents and purposes, you would have to let the child die. So oftentimes you are not allowed to help people because you have to be neutral in order to keep the peace between the guild, the state and the temples. And this is the grim reality of being an adventurer in Overlord. And in the next videos, somewhere in the future, we will take a look at the internal guild ranking, aka what it means to be copper, gold or adamantite adventurers. But for today, this is it. Have a nice day, over and out.